secretary for today.
All right, call to order 6:31 p.m. and we do not have any citizens today. So the first agenda item is going to be consider approving minutes from the March 12th meeting and take appropriate action. Any edits? Revision? Motion to approve? All right, seconded? Second. Lisa, all right, all in favor? All right, passes. Next agenda item, receive staff update on sustainability initiative.
All right, so the active transportation plan, we should be getting the document from the consultants. It might be in my inbox now or tomorrow. So when I get that, I will send it to everyone to start to look at. We're gonna do a bit of an overview in the agenda today. And then I'll send out those documents to you guys. Those will also be published with the May agenda, where you guys can vote if you want to do a recommendation for, or against the plan, before it goes to council. And as of now, that is planned to go to council, June 3rd in a study session that'll be led by the consultants. So they'll be there to kind of walk through the process and everything of how they, identified the projects, the community input that they've done, and everything working to the plan. And then if kind of all goes as scheduled, it would go towards the city council on July the 15th, for approval.
And do we have a temperature what that might have to be?
Don't really. I mean, I think most of you that were there at the community input, there were a number of council members there. I'm sure kind of like with all of the different plans, there's portions of it that they all like, maybe that some don't. It's not a binding thing. It's very similar, kind of like the comp plan and our plan. They adopt a plan, but if a project, most of them are going to exceed a funding threshold where it will go to council for approval, they could still say, no, we don't want to spend money on that trail or that connection this budget year, so that's still up to them. So hopefully it would be able to go through, put a lot of work into it. And it's been, I guess, even if it's not really approved, it would still be, portions of it would be used by staff just because there's, a project list in there that have an identified need. So we'll just kind of have to see, and then we will probably have at least one new council member. There's 2 seats up for election this coming up May 2nd. Okay. So we'll have to see kind of what happens with that, but they'll have plenty of time to get an introductory and a study session, provide any feedback that they might have, and the consultants can kind of work with that and make any necessary changes to hopefully get that across the finish line. The lights out proclamation, that's in the approval process right now. But it should go for the Earth Day council meeting on the 22nd. So if you're available, I'll let you guys know when it's confirmed, but plan to attend that council meeting when they do the proclamation. We've done that the last couple of years. Good photo op with the signs. And so if you're available, I'll be at 6 p.m. on the 22nd. I mentioned grants last time. We're still waiting to hear on a electric vehicle grant from the state, and on the TxDOT trail funding, we got through the preliminary process. So hopefully we'll continue to do that. They're going to release the detailed application next week. So we're going to applying for trail funding along Inwood in the Encore easement there, going up, connecting, I guess, basically from Alpha all the way to the city limits. And Addison is building a trail there too. So hopefully we can get some funding for that, because the state would cover 80% of the costs on that. So that's always good to get other people's money. We've been doing some work on anti-idling, mostly internal, trying to get staff aware to limit idling. It's timely. It's about to be ozone season. I think we actually had our first orange day, air quality day today. It's pretty common in the summer, in the spring and summer as it gets warmer. So be sure to kind of be aware of, idling vehicles and maybe getting those health alerts. So if you can plan your outdoor activities, try to not do it on a day where air quality is really bad. So we've been doing some employee education, have some graphics and some signs that we put out. So trying to kind of make sure that we're not wasting fuel and polluting when we don't need to be. Water rebates, we're at 114 toilets and 13 irrigation checkup applications. We did a push, some marketing on that. I'm gonna try and do some more in the summer, once it gets hot and everyone turns on their sprinklers again. So try and get some more of those coming in. The Power Switch program, the spring one, the deadline was March 26th, so we're done with that auction. We'll get some numbers on number of participants coming in hopefully shortly. The Solar Switch program, we're still doing signups for that. And that auction for that program is on the 16th of this month of April. So, signed up for an offer, they'll receive that, and they have until July 2nd to accept. And if for some reason someone doesn't sign up before, they can still sign up after that April auction date.
The deadline for the auction date is before though?
So yeah, the auction date, yeah, because they want to get as many people signed up previously, so they can kind of, hopefully get a bulk discounted price. But they're not going to say no to people that sign up before the final decision on July the 2nd. So if someone signs up later, they're still able to get into the program. We just try to get more and more people to sign up earlier before the auction, to try and get, our numbers up and hopefully the costs down.
Do we know how many people have signed up so far?
I don't have the sign up for this auction. I get all the numbers post auction. I want to say we've had 36 installs though through the other programs that we've done. So that's pretty decent for, I would say, for a city our size, for people putting solar on their homes. And that's just through the program. We still have a lot of people putting solar on buildings that don't go through the program, or maybe you use that offer to leverage something or get other quotes.
I think this one does have battery options this time around.
It does have a battery option this time around. So that's another thing. And I know to get the Encore incentive money, you have to have a battery. I think they still have funding. So hopefully residents can stack those, to kind of discount the cost to install. Earth Day's coming up on the 22nd. We'll be doing some more pushes on, engagement on that. We're gonna have some signs up at City Hall, hopefully with the lights out proclamation on that day. That's a kind of a good one to bring attention. And then I'll be doing a tabling event at the library that day, just kind of catching people as they come in and trying to let them know about our programs. Got some LED light bulbs to give away, along with our other kind of stuff. So try and bring some attention to that. It's a good time thinking about it. We're going through budget process. One of the things that we're looking at is maybe trying to do some like energy efficiency rebates, kind of similar to the water rebate program. Kind of working out what that would look like, but and maybe trying to do it where it's more on like low to moderate income households to kind of meet the need of people that have a higher energy burden, more a higher percentage of their income is going towards electricity and power bills. So we'll see if that kind of goes through. Be a good pilot program to try out, and hopefully be able to help people reduce energy, save money, aligns with our sustainability plan really well. We had to do a quick solar repair at the library, so we've got all that done. Systems back reporting, and I think everything else is ongoing. SoulSmart, that'll be included with plannings, ordinances in the summer. Lead for cities, we were accepted into the national cohort through the United States Green Building Council. So we'll be working with some cities from around the country, cities and counties. So in Texas, it's just us and Harris County, so Houston area. So I'm gonna be working on that. That'll be helpful for me. A lot of other cities that go through this have multiple staff members doing it, so it'll be a lot of work, but it's a good thing for us because it's a national benchmark, so we can kind of see how we compare to other cities. There's not a ton of these frameworks around for sustainability, so that'll be good. And then timing wise, if we get certified in that at the end of this year, we can kind of see where other areas we're underperforming and use that in our next sustainability plan to kind of identify some focus areas where we should, put our time and focus on improvement. And then greenhouse gas inventory, just trying to get the last few little data pieces that I need from Dallas Water Utilities and a few other places. So we're 90% done with that project. And once that's complete, I'll make sure we add that to a future agenda. We can kind of do some comparison between the inventory we did in 2019 and this one we're doing the 2023 calendar year for data. So Plan is to do an inventory every 4 years, track our progress. Once again, if there's areas that we're underperforming in, that's a good indicator for us to, use the data to make a decision. Hey, we need to focus on vehicle fleet or buildings or whatever that may be. That's all I've got. The next meeting is May 14th.
Yes, yeah. We do the patrol, right? To the police officers. They run their cars the whole time. They even on a call, they'll be running their car. So, I don't know how
Yeah.
you want to tackle that one.
The public safety is a tough one. Even cities that have like really strict anti-idling stuff, public safety vehicles are exempted. Hopefully though, it's like, if they're out on patrol, they can run the vehicle, but when they get into the lot, turn off the car, go inside, do the paperwork and stuff in the office. So that's a tough one. That'll be, I would say, probably the last ones that we would focus on is the police and fire apparatus. I get what you're saying. They are the biggest fuel users too, just because, they're constantly on the move. When they're sitting, they're idling their vehicles to be ready to go. So,
Don't buy a police vehicle.
yeah. I think we're on about a 3-year cycle for how long this lasts because they use them.
Any other questions, discussion? All right,
Wonderful job.
good transportation. Exciting.
Share this recording. Right. So you guys have been aware of this project for a while, but just as a little bit of a refresher, this is our update to the 2015 Trail Master Plan. It's taking a little bit broader scope than just strictly trails, looking at kind of all pedestrian and cycling mobility, really focusing on safety and connectivity for pedestrians and for cyclists. Part of the reason that we started it when we did, not only was the other plan, a lot of the projects have been completed through development and through city projects, but it was after the comprehensive plan was adopted. So we can make sure that we're aligned with that. And the community input process we've talked about and you guys have participated in both at this meeting. We had a public community input session. We were at Planning and Zoning, Parks and Recreation Board, and then we also have a survey open for about a month. So with all of that information, the consultants kind of took that and used it to provide weights to the project list. One of the things that they did to start, obviously, is to evaluate our existing conditions. So I've copied some figures here from the document that kind of map out. So this is kind of the existing like pedestrian infrastructure. They also did kind of the existing bicycle facilities that are around the city. So kind of taking stock and, okay, what do we have? Where are some opportunities for connection? One of the big ones is an east-west connection that's not Valley View. Just given our street configuration, that's a little bit tough, but that's one of the things that they kind of identified as a way to kind of improve connectivity. And what a lot of our community input, it's no surprise, is safety. Trying to make it to where people feel safe to drive, not in an F-250 around Farmers Branch. So walking, biking, because people don't feel safe, they're not going to do it. And safety was a big thing, obviously, mentioned, because we do have, quite a few incidents of crashes with pedestrian or a cyclist, where a vehicle, comes in and hits them. So they mapped that, identified certain areas where, okay, we're having, big time safety issues here. What can we do to try and mitigate that and reduce kind of the dots that are on this map? So kind of looking into the future of what they wanted to do for projects, pedestrians trying to connect to points of interest, to like destinations that people could walk to. Schools are a large one, DART station. And so they have these walk sheds, 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk. So really trying to prioritize our pedestrian projects to get people that are within, you know, a walk that's what most people would be willing to do, a clear, connected, safe way to get there. So that's kind of the future focus for pedestrians. And then for bicycle facilities, you know, kind of a combination of shared use paths, on-street bike lanes. This is kind of what this could look like here, trying to connect the city for cyclists. So these are all items that will be in the document. So as soon as we receive that, it'll get sent to you all. You'll have plenty of time to review it before our next meeting. And it'll also have just the full list of projects kind of ranked in a short term and long term, based on the priority, the different way, you know, connectivity, safety, putting the factors in, how people rank them in our community input. That was basically assigned a factor and used to, you know, prioritize, which projects that we should focus on in the near term. One of the things that we also requested is for them to develop a complete streets policy, to go along. One of the main reasons is this helps us get funding for transportation, projects, help maintain our eligibility. But it's basically when the city is doing a, you know, street work or something like that, we're not just thinking about vehicles. We're taking a little bit more of a holistic approach, and we're looking at how do we make this infrastructure for all modes of travel. It doesn't mean every street's gonna get a bike lane. I mean, there's gonna be limitations and everything like that. But it's just us doing, kind of following best practices, doing our due diligence to where if there's a, you know, something where we're already ripping up the concrete, the asphalt, and we're looking at putting something new there, making sure that we're being a little bit more broad and thinking about outside the vehicle as well. So kind of the same thing, aligning with the plan is safety, accessibility, connection. And basically that policy, it's an internal policy for us to, you know, review the transportation projects as an opportunity for all those trying to make the network more accessible and more connected. There's exceptions with that. Like I said, there's gonna be certain projects that would not be cost feasible to do a certain type of facility. It might be unnecessary. It's not in an area that would necessarily need a lot of pedestrian connectivity. We'd be better off focusing funds on a different area. So there's exceptions, but it's just kind of it's a best practice. There's a number of cities already in the region that have a policy very similar to this. So kind of just bringing us on there and just having something a little bit more formalized in our, you know, I guess, you know, in our policies that in case, you know, the people that are doing the work now that are considering this, they leave and we get new people, hey, this is an established principle that we're doing. So that will also be sent to you all to review. And then both of these items will be taken to council, in June and July. So those are the two main things here. So kind of we had all of our plan development, community input meeting today, just to kind of review the topic. You guys will have an opportunity to provide a recommendation, since you're an advisory board, to council at our next meeting. And that recommendation will go as council receives their presentations in June, and the vote if they want to in July. So those will be, I guess, on, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's on the books. So forthcoming, I suppose. So that's kind of where we are. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So on the transportation, basically you're looking at bikes, walking, things like that. What about road diet? One of the things that diet was a big proponent was road diet. So we have 3 lanes on I think it's Josie and Webb Chapel.
Mhm.
And then 3 lanes going on Valley View. So in order for it to be safe, like you pointed out, how unsafe it is for pedestrians, incidents along there. One of the things that they wanted to recommend was take one of the lanes off, just set parking over there. I go to Philadelphia a lot, and one of the things that I found, first of all, in Philadelphia, that you can walk everywhere. You can walk 4 or 5 miles. And it's very, very safe because there's only one way the traffic is coming. And every traffic light plenty of room, time for people to back. Have you thought of that?
Yes, so one of the things, and I don't have it included here, but they did levels of like stress for cyclists on the roads. And then they also did capacity, so basically, they have vehicle counts on the road currently and projections into the future. And what the data was showing is a lot of our roads have excess capacity, so they would be candidates for a road diet. That hasn't been a very popular thing with council. We had the Valley View one, kind of near the downtown area that they voted against. But some of the recommendations, I think, in the plan could be, the data warrants that a road diet could be feasible.
Road diet is one of them. The other is the roundabouts. So that's another one that is very, very effective as far as keeping the traffic moving. If you're looking at it from a holistic point of view, those are a couple of things. My suggestion is even don't council changes every 2 years.
For sure. And yeah, that's why in the plan, it's like,
Yeah.
if they don't want to do a project in the near term, it's still, if we have the data that supports it, it's going to be listed in that. Just like you said, people roll off, new ideas come on. I don't believe there's anything about roundabouts within this plan. However, our public works director came from, I think it's Colleyville, and they have a lot of roundabouts. So we do have someone on staff that's familiar with that. So if that becomes a topic of discussion, that's good that we've got Ray in public works because he's got a lot of roundabouts.
Well, and I think that like with that, especially what you're saying, that we're over capacity or whatever, like with our geographic location, we're always gonna have pass through traffic. And I think that it would benefit the city to think more about addressing that issue and making it less desirable as a pass through, because they're not stopping to get food, they're not going to Firehouse Theater, they're using the streets, they're, wear and tear on our streets, they're polluting our air. And they're not staying in the community, they're just trying to get from 35 to 635 quicker or whatever. And so while it has not been a very popular idea to like narrow, change the configuration, I'll say, not necessarily narrow, but change the configuration. The long-term benefit of it is that we're lower the pass-through traffic. Like, I think that's a more palatable goal, is like keeping it safer for the residents by tamping down the number of people who are just driving through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pass through community.
Right. But if you can address that issue instead of, and not, or in tandem with like safety and walkability and all of those things, which are also important. It just seems like that.
Yeah.
They spend money in Irving.
Right, or Addison, or, like they're just on their way to someplace else, but they don't have to
Right.
get on 635 to get there. That's
Right.
not benefiting us.
I do that too. I don't want to get on 635. I go Luna.
Yeah. But you live here. You pay, you pay taxes, you invest in the infrastructure,
Right.
that's different than someone that's out of the community doing that. I hear you worse, like.
Just some thoughts.
No, I think it was,
It's like, these are some of the things we are considering. Road diet is big, I'm telling you. Don't want to get into politics of it, but there are council people candidates who are running, that they will address something.
and that's the nice thing too, is, for staff, we develop these plans, we take community input. Because, council does change, people working with the city change, so we do have a documented plan, like we do with sustainability. So if I win the lottery tomorrow and cash out, there's a plan in place for the next person to come in. And it's, yeah.
I'd like to think you're so committed to the cause. You would be like, I won the lottery, but I'm gonna stay the course. Like, it would be nice.
You guys are safe on that. But and it does document a lot of those things. So especially like with the kind of excess capacity on some of our roadways that could warrant things. And, some of the unintended consequences of having that excess capacity is you have people like driving through, potentially driving through very quickly, which is a safety issue. And, you know, I know along Valley View, I drive the speed limit because there's a lot of enforcement out. And so, you know, there's other ways to, you know, slow people down other than enforcement, and part of that's the street design. So that's a little bit of what this can address.
I mean, the enforcement is actually kind of can be a springboard. Like, it's slowing people down. So maybe they're already diverting some of the people that are passing through because they're like, gosh, I have to drive 30 miles an hour.
I noticed
Yeah.
the motorcycle police,
Um,
much more, they were like,
selfish.
within about 5 minutes, I saw 3 of them on my street.
And there was a presentation, I think your former boss or your boss did to council about, there was a simulation.
Yeah, they did a simulation because they had got some questions on that Valley View road diet. So they actually did a consulting company to do a traffic simulator, and it accounted for, you know, like DART coming through every 15 minutes, or I guess 7.5 minutes both ways. But you know, it did show, I believe, that the roadway could handle it. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
part of it too is just with the construction that we had at that time, and maybe made the potential of the project seem worse than it would be, because it would probably be way faster than the current construction zone, even with the lane. But I mean, yeah, that's what this plan, you know, a lot of it does talk about. You know, here are the areas where it's dangerous to ride a bicycle. You're under a high level of stress because you have vehicles going 45 miles an hour. You know, this road where they're going 20 is a better route. You know, excess capacity, we could, you know, maybe have an on-street bike lane or something like that, and take away one lane and still have traffic move in a way that doesn't restrict the flow as much in the city. So, yeah, I mean, it's,
Get those excess users out of there.
yeah, if you're not driving to a restaurant, you can't.
If you're not in the city, I don't want you driving through it. Oh, shit, I know that's not realistic, but you know.
So, I have a couple questions for this. So I flipped through the comprehensive plan again, and there's a good reminder, there's tons of transportation stuff in that. But in it said that the people that work in Farmers Branch, or they're employed, outnumber the people who live in Farmers Branch 2 to 1. So if we make people take time to enjoy our city, which I say doesn't slow them down, is there economic, like, what's the tie-in to the economy? Get people who are working here walk to
I mean,
Breadsticks for dinner.
yeah, there's definitely a draw, and I'll just kind of use my personal experience. I live close to the Katy Trail in Dallas, so I rented an apartment there for a few years, liked the area, and we bought a condo. So it's like, that was a big draw for us, that we could walk to the trail. You know, it connects, I can walk to the American Airlines Center. I'm not a big basketball or hockey fan, so I've kind of missed opportunity that all the teams I like are in the suburbs, like Frisco or Arlington. So that kind of lost on me on that, but there's also restaurants and different things around. And I think what we've seen kind of in the city over time with like the community surveys, a lot of the responses is wanting more restaurants in Farmers Branch. And, you know, for that to happen, a lot of times you need more density. And so, you know, trying to put density in the right spots. And I think kind of the Dark Station area is a good example of that. You have the apartment complexes there, you have a lot of people living in a small area, and, you know, can walk to Red Sticks or some of the other places that are there. Can you know, get to a Dart Lane, can you know, walk to a park, City Hall and the Rose Garden and different things like that. So I think those are all amenities that people like to see in their community. You see a lot of people on.
That is Farmers Branch Fire Department, 1,900 speaker
And
attend.
That's the other draw for economic development. But, you know, like Rawhide, when you drive by, there's always people on the trail. So I'm sure, you know, people want to live in that area because, hey, this is great. I can take my dog for a walk, or I can go for a run, and I want to protect the area for a long period of time. I don't really do too many intersections. So there definitely is, economic value to it. And especially like with the trails, I think other cities would probably be a good case study, is that as you develop these trails, these former areas that maybe didn't have a lot of activity are starting to get homes, restaurants, apartments. You know, it does draw people there. It's not probably for everyone. It's not as much of a priority, but just my personal experience, it's a good example.
So for the people that work here but don't live here, I'm guessing that the critical mass is like over here in this industrial area off of Alpha, and then like west side.
Probably, kind of off the major roadways.
And
And
there's
so
not a lot of,
there's probably not a lot for them there. I mean, if the kind of area around this part of town, like with the entertainment district, if they can kind of build that up, there's possibility of people walking to go grab lunch versus, driving. But mostly right before the residents that are living here to have connections, you know, whether it's to walk to school, take their kids and walk to school where they know that could be a lot safer. That's a big one. And then, that has cascading effects, parents having to wait in the drive-through line and idle their cars there and different things like that. And then, the areas where there are the restaurants and different things, trying to get people, if you can walk, it's kind of nice to probably be able to go, just walk to grab dinner, grab a drink, grab a coffee, whatever, and then walk home. You don't have to mess with parking and all the other issues. So it's not gonna work for everyone and everything. I mean, but the walk shows that they have listed are kind of a 5 minute and a 10 minute. I think a 10 minute equates to about a half mile, which is probably the furthest distance someone would go. But if you could, if it was nice and easy to walk, if you were working in this building and you could walk over to Saltgrass versus getting in your car, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a win right there.
I think if there are any like talking points that we could maybe be prepared with if we need to.
Yeah.
Just let us know during the study session.
Yeah, and then you guys are more than welcome to be at a council meeting. If you guys do a recommendation for this, that goes to council, that gets included in their staff report. You guys are an advisory board. You exist to provide recommendations and, research or whatever to council. So that goes in there, but always reach out, talk to your elected representative.
So can we make a motion to like support the active transportation? thing?
That'll be next one. So I'll send the documents of both the complete streets policy and the plan. That way you guys have about a month to read through it because it'll be a little bit lengthy.
I'm sure you said that already, but.
No, you're good. So yeah, you guys will have plenty of time and that'll be in the main action item, next month.
Was there anything in there about like, how do we communicate these trails to the citizens or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely like highlighting that and then some of the, like trail markers and direction there, like signs and, for some like the bicycle facilities, there's gonna be some things where kind of that east-west connection, probably south of Valley View, they're not all gonna be formalized like on-street bike lanes, but here's kind of the bicycle, I think they use the phrase bicycle boulevard, which is signage along the roads. So if you are biking, you can see the signs and okay, I need to go here and then I'll be towards the DART station. So, because there's not really a great straight long road south of Valley View, so that's some of the other things that we'll have. And then kind of with our trails, like trying to have better signage and markers on that is something that we're kind of doing. And then lighting is another consideration that we're hearing a lot for trails. Just so it's more visible.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like someone that's considering doing it, like, I want to get an e-bike to get around like to the rec center and to other places, stuff like that. But if I don't know that there's like these designated things.
Yeah.
And if I only know that by driving by, I'm not sure if I would be as apt to go out and do something like that and become a bicyclist, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's like whenever I was looking on Google, like it does have like a bike function on there, but I don't know that it actually aligns to anything that cities have designated as far as actual bike lanes and stuff like that.
That's a good question. And I'll ask and see kind of how the consultants probably know better.
Yeah, I was hoping that maybe that's a question for that.
Yeah.
And once, like, I don't know, we can talk about maybe one of the informative things that we provide at our next tabling event is maybe it's a trail map.
Mhm.
Or something, or at least maybe something people can look at and take a picture of.
Yeah.
And then if we can update it, or I don't know, something like that, because, well, we can get to that later, but I think that's very good.
And a lot of these would go probably on the city's project dashboard too, which is kind of the GIS map that the city has. So that would be maybe a good way too, if people are, seeing some construction happening, it's not, I don't know how many people are checking that, but it's just,
It's everyone.
yeah, it's everyone. It's totally, but I mean, it's, you've got to do a ton of these little things to hopefully reach,
Yeah.
a good chunk of the people.
Do you know how many people visit the website? Just the general government website?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'd be curious.
I can see if I can
I mean,
find
I'm
out,
just- I'm just thinking like, how many times have I gone to it in the last month, last week? At least 5. That's because my brain's like a sieve, and once I can't retain any information, I keep going back. When's fall pickup day?
I will say, but I sit next to the customer service group, and that's one of the
Usually around the
reasons
first.
constantly.
Oh, I'm sure.
So people, even if they're not using the website, they're asking the questions.
Yeah. I'm gonna get.
I mean, I'm calling too. Like,
Yeah.
when's the fall pickup again?
All your bases are covered.
And Alex, I have one more question for you. There was a recommendation in the comprehensive plan, about, and I don't know exactly what this is, but it's the transportation demand management. But it suggested an ordinance policy incentive program for use of TDM as part of development review and approval.
So not quite sure within the comp plan what that was, but I think other cities that have kind of those programs, a lot of it is if there are gonna be like large employment centers trying to work with the building site and the, you know, the companies to try to figure out ways to get their
Mhm.
people, you know, sometimes it's as simple as like having like kind of staggered work days. So I don't necessarily know here, but if we have, that building's pretty big, you know, how many, you know, people coming out, but I know on some like the larger corporate campuses in the region, you know, it would 5 o'clock would hit. It was just a steady stream of cars trying to leave,
Perfect.
making left turns and, you know, if you have these large employment centers that might be causing kind of traffic issues 2 times a day, trying to facilitate ways to do that. And maybe it's working with DART, you know, is there a way that we can, you know, incorporate GoLink into this to, you know, reach this building or something like that?
Would
I
that
can
be-
try to get some clarification.
Okay, okay, would that be something that goes into that policy, that complete streets policy? If that were,
I don't believe so. But I'll talk to our planning department and see if I can get a little bit more clarification on what the intent was behind it.
a discussion. Big plans ahead. Okay. The next agenda item, is to discuss changing the dates for future sustainability committee meetings. I know there's been some discussion about if this date is in fact the best date. And Alex has done some work to pull in
Oh,
information about other parts and commission.
Yeah, so big, long list of, kind of don't realize how many boards and commissions we have
Yeah.
until you go through that. But yeah, so I know this was brought up, so I just put together kind of this list of when other boards are meeting and kind of where they're meeting. And just to kind of help with the discussion, just some things to kind of consider is like trying to be consistent with meeting dates. Like right now, you know, we're the second Wednesday of every month. It's pretty easy to kind of remember that. Facility availability, there's not too many that meet here at the fire station, so I think we'd probably be okay with that. You know, the availability of people that are sitting on the committee now, you know, we don't want to change it and leave someone out. And then, you know, just a few other things, holidays and schedules of boards and commissions and different things like that. So, we're kind of sheltered from, I think, most holidays being in the second week, of the month. And kind of see when other groups are meeting. I would say Tuesdays are probably gonna be off limits, because while council meets the first and third Tuesdays of each month, it does vary. They change that sometimes, so we don't really want to have a conflict with a council meeting. So, and try to avoid a conflict with another board, so that way in case you guys have interest in attending or other people do. So yeah, I'll what you guys discuss.
Well, assuming Friday is probably off the table.
it's travel day. That would be it.
I think
Monday?
Tuesdays are the best part. It's the middle of the week. Not a whole lot of stuff. I've never had a problem attending. The time is, this venue is pretty good too, because we're all living on the.
Yeah, like the venue.
Yeah, the venue.
Yeah, the venue's great. Move that. don't want to let any other committees know about it either.
Well, apparently animal shelter.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they met here too.
Well, I think it's important to talk about a couple of things. If we are not able to change the meeting, we'll be losing that potentially.
Well, you know, yeah. I just have a lot more conflicts and there'll come a point probably when I'll miss and have to get thrown off, so.
Right.
But I think also my term is up in mid-2026, so, you know, at some point, is it worth screwing with everybody else's schedule?
Sure.
Would moving the meeting up like half an hour help or hurt? I don't know if that would be,
You mean meet earlier than 6:30?
yeah, like if we met did dinner at 5:30 and met at 6, is that trouble?
I mean, that would definitely help. Cause beyond this day, probably the only options I have are the first Thursday of the month or the fourth Thursday of the month. Like,
Okay.
I have meetings every freaking night, so, and there's only one other board that meets on the fourth Thursday, but again, if that throws the entire committee into chaos, I don't think it's worth it.
Would anyone have an issue getting here by 6?
No.
Work.
That would definitely help me, because might be able to get to my next thing.
I just think it's important that we try to accommodate because historically, the city in general has a hard time getting people to even like have a full committee. And you're a pretty active, you know, like you're participating, participatory, you have a lot of, you might want to renew your term. And, you know, I would hate to lose, like we already need someone to fill the space.
Yeah.
So if we can adjust it a little bit, it makes sense to me.
Seems like a very elegant solution and
Yeah.
all of us seem good with it.
Make the motion, we tell you to say minutes.
Yeah, I don't think we need to make I don't have this marked as an action. So
We'll just all agree.
what I'll do, I will reach out to Ted
Tell Ted, yes.
just to make sure that he's okay with it, but I don't think he'll have trouble with the commute from.
Right, it's just,
Yeah.
Here, so
We should be walking.
he's got here fairly early a lot of times too, because I think this will actually probably work out for him, because I think he finishes work and stays there like an
Yeah,
extra
wait.
hour or something, so. I will just check with him out of,
Crazy.
So we're gonna start at 6.
so we would start at 6 and we would have the food ready at 5:30 if people want to eat before they get on camera. So
Yeah.
All right.
Wednesday.
Starting.
Yeah, I know, right. Just give me a knife
Usually-
next time, because
So
I'm
we
like,
would,
these noodles.
New process.
probably next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll aim
Okay.
That would work.
That would work.
Wait,
Said
let
we
me-
Yeah.
I did that right there, so like, okay, we're doing it.
I'll get that okay
There
with
you go.
Ted, and I'll make the change on the city secretary's website and stuff, just so it's updated, but moving it up is perfect. man.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to get here at 5:30 for food and then meeting at 6. And I like that too, because then I get home earlier.
Right.
Win-win for everyone.
It's a win.
That just means
You
we
get to
have a
wind down
longer
and stay
meeting.
earlier.
No. Talk faster.
5:30.
All right. Cool.
This is repeats every time. Yeah, all future events.
Right, exactly.
All right, I'm gonna move us to the next agenda item. It's to receive subcommittee updates, from subcommittees. So I will share for Build to Natural Environment. I participated in the Lights Out campaign, bird survey. And it was actually quite, a really good experience, especially when you're thinking about how other living beings interact in this built space and building design and how it hinders or helps the little ones around us. So it was very good. I would highly recommend volunteering if you.
Did you find a lot of birds?
Not a lot,
But you did find birds.
yeah, but there was one that was still alive, so they shipped them off in a little shoebox essentially, and they rehabilitate them.
Okay.
And hit
What kind of bird was that?
the Lincoln Sparrow.
Lincoln stick.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, there's the majority of things we found were Lincoln Sparrow. So,
Then was this downtown Dallas
Oh, you did that.
with the Audubon?
yeah, and then they take the specimens or didn't make it. They shipped them to Texas A&M, I believe, for further study and
Gotta set them the best.
What time do you have to be out to do that?
Early, 6 a.m. I think. That's good. It's like,
Shift one day or?
no, this, it's like that calendar, they only do it in peak vibration. And then they do like a full report, and it's really interesting, actually. I mean, I'm on their newsletter, so I see it. My updates on the next communication. So we had a table at the cultural global gateway, with Gateway to the Globe. Gateway to the Globe. And it was great. I thought it was great. That was fun. Val, thank you very much for volunteering, and Laura, thank you very much for volunteering.
I was there too.
Oh, right, yeah. Thank you so much for
Sending people over.
for volunteering. He was just doing double duty because he was also on the Gateway to the Globe committee. But it was really cool. I mean, it was lots of people stopped at our table. We gave out a lot of information, a lot of giveaway bags and
Oh, they love those
water
bags.
bottles.
Water bottle.
Love
And,
those bags.
We ran through all of the activity books.
Good.
And there were more activity books than there were the sticker packets.
Yeah.
So that kind of, but it's fine. And there were several people that stopped and had questions about certain things, you know, like, the guy that asked about the EV
Mhm.
stuff. And, there was a guy that I talked to pretty, you know, for a few minutes about the toilet rebate situation. And, so that was good. There were people asking about zero. I have kind of a list of like topics people were asking about. So, I think it gives us a good jumping off point for like different, you know, at different times of year, maybe highlighting different programs or different, initiatives that we're working on. But overall, I thought it was nice. What did you guys think?
So for those kind of things, I noticed that Parks and Rec had a customized tent
Mhm.
that you could easily spot and had their, you know. So I don't know if we could get something like that, but if we can't, it would have been helpful if we'd had a much larger banner up top to spot,
Okay.
so that people, you know, actually see what it is. I know they can look at the table, but you have to
Yeah.
get much closer in to really recognize that.
Okay.
Parks and Rec, you could see clear across.
Yeah.
Did you have a canopy tent?
Yeah, but you know, they provided it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Parks and Recs have like their
Yeah,
own
they
setup. Yeah, so it's, you know, like the library was right next to us. They
Yeah.
had the same thing. And then the public health lady, mosquito lady was on the other side of us. The only, I did go and get 2 little stakes in the ground, for the signs because it was so windy that
Yeah.
the easels would have not made it. Oh, shoot, no. That's okay. But I mean, I think it went really well. There was a lot of people that did not even know we had a sustainability department. So there's plenty of work to be done and to do. So yeah, I mean, I think it went really well, and I look forward to the next one that we do. I just need to look at the calendar because the fishing fun's already over.
That was this past week or was it next week?
I think so.
Was it? I think we had talked about doing one in the fall, like maybe
Yeah.
a Halloween event would be a
Yeah.
good one or something like that.
Halloween was good. There were lots of little kiddos.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about like in the fall or in the spring, I think we should like, cause they had this little thing where they could go by and get passport stickers. I was like, we should do like a Birds in the Branch bingo, and at each vendor, they have a stamp that they can stamp, you know, like, you know, this is the duck one and this is the heron one, and then they can come back and then maybe get a prize, because part of the challenge was that everybody wanted a giveaway thing, and, you know, it gets to be like, okay, well, so, but I think like for the kids specifically, if we can say, well, you can come back and get a prize after you do this bingo card or something, I think that might be fun. But
The library did a good job of doing that. They had a little game,
like a little, yeah,
a little Plinko,
yeah,
and if you landed it, then you got a certain like little tidbit or
yeah, some little trinket, and then save the like
grocery bags and the water bottles for like parents.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so they understand just one.
Yeah.
But I think it was really good. Yeah. Well, and it was a cool event. There was a lot of people there. So,
What about toiletry waste?
Hopefully I'll get a lot of applications coming.
one of the guy that I talked to said, and I don't know if this at all is true. I'm just gonna communicate what he said, was that the older houses do not have the plumbing to support low flow.
Oh, that's right. They were
He was saying that like that they need some kind of pitch. The plumbing needs to have some sort of pitch to really make it efficient. And that like older houses don't have that, and then that leads to people having to get their pipes cleaned out like, you know, more frequently. Like I said, I don't know if that's actually true, but I mean, I haven't had a problem and my house is built in 61, so I don't know if that's an accurate.
That hasn't really been brought up to me, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some
There,
issues.
yeah.
It could be, maybe not so much that the home is older, just the way that the plumbing is set up is.
Right, I mean, I think his argument was that, or his point was that like he needs some gravity assistance along with the pressure and the volume of water to get the whatever all the way through the pipe, which may be very well may be true, but
I'm not sure.
I was like, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I
I'm
couldn't
a
say.
hunter, not a plumber.
Right, I don't know. So, but I thought that was an interesting.
And here, have a bag.
It did, I will say, it did, point out the areas, the gaps in my own knowledge, when people are like asking me questions, well, how does the city do this? Or what does this happen? How does this happen? And I'm like, I don't know. But that's, you know,
Yeah.
a learning opportunity.
Well, and like hopefully on future ones, I'll be in town and can help. out,
Yeah, like I was
or
really, like, the guy
have-
to be
have
here
my
could show
cards.
up, so.
That way, in case there's, you know, questions beyond the scope of bonds. Hey, call this guy on my.
Well, that's what I did with that one
Yeah.
guy. I was like, let me remember it all, figure out a way to answer the question because I don't know, but it was great. I thought it was great. That's all I had to report about anything. Do you know what
What do you feel like?
I mean? We did. Yeah. You know, but. That's all.
All right, water conservation.
We know.
So, I mean, basically the plan is, I think they're finishing up the final repairs or the final installs. In the next fiscal year is when they should be turning on the software. They should be,
Is there a way that Al and I might be able to get like a pre-view of the dashboard so that maybe we can take a look at it and kind of like,
Offer feedback.
offer feedback or just kind of like maybe write up a couple of like tips for people. Cause if you get people to log in and look at the dashboard, they might be like, this doesn't make any sense, and maybe we could have just like a little, when you go to the dashboard, the first thing you wanna click on is this one, and that'll show you your monthly usage or your daily usage, and have like, just do something on a PowerPoint where, you know, you make the circle, this gives you this information, this gives you that information, kind of thing.
yeah.
Like, helping
I'll-
people to log on too, because sometimes that's a big like roadblock to people using the stuff is, okay, yes, you got your email, you gotta put your email, create the password and everything, but it's just go to the site and do A, B, and C just so they can make it quick, you know? Because we want them to be paying attention. We don't want them to get frustrated with the process. I don't know how. And maybe it's really, the user interface is really good. Who knows? Or maybe it's not that great, and that's where we could help out and kind of like point people in the right direction, make it easier and smoother for them to use.
Yeah, and I'll talk to the utilities group on that, because any education we can do for the residents to make that easier.
Yeah.
There's gonna be less questions that they're gonna be calling the city. and
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I know they're gonna have to do some training probably with the customer service reps and everything on that. So I'll follow up with them and see if we can do a preview.
Yeah, I've done, because I do a lot of that at work with people, like we just switched over to a new billing software, and I've been doing a lot of
messing around with it, just trying to. So I have been helping people figure it out a little easier so that they're not tearing their hair out. Obviously, that's gonna be, hopefully, that's way more complicated than the stack board's gonna be, but.
Yeah, hopefully it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so.
Yeah, so if there's a way
I'm
we
gonna
could-
get a demo on it, but
If there's a way we can get
Yeah.
a sneak preview of it to look at.
Well, see, Icon is the vendor, they've got a good program where they go in and they detect intermittent leaks, they can show you what time you use more water and things like that. It's pretty graphical, it's called a smart hub.
Okay.
That's what it is. I don't know what it is for. It's a smart hub. It requires integration and then it requires billing integration. So all the data that comes in from the AMI goes into this and it populates it on, at, say, 12 o'clock at night so that people can see their usage. And then it also alerts. So I have several questions that I'd ask them because it's important that they're going to be spending, $1 million, $2 million on this software.
I don't know how much, I know it's significant, so.
Our software is $1 million. So. Anyway, if you can set up a meeting.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do on that, because like I said, I'd like to see what the preview is. And any education that we can give to residents, reduces the number of people, or increases the number of people that will use it and utilize it the way that we want to. But also takes a load off the staff for questions and phone calls.
So that's one of the things that we found, especially in the electricity world, was it the customer service calls volume reduced by 1/5.
Right.
Yeah, because everyone can see where the power is coming from. We just do electricity. So that is one of the values of the software.
Nice.
On the same topic, basically. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I probably do get to sit down in YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Because I used to work for a company as a trainer that did the automated meter reading systems as well. So we got training documents.
Which one?
We train everybody. It's called Datamatic. I think it managed it at 1 point. But yeah, so.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. I'm gonna be doing what we call it the cool down the city presentation, the long-term strategy, how do you mitigate the high temperatures in Texas? And there's a strategy document that we should present to council sometime. I'll do my best to give, with the information that you sent me.
Okay.
It's pretty important that we have more than 15% of cool space. So I'll have to do some research, but where would this fit? In the city, it's not water.
I would say, look at the plan that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Master
we-
plan. For sure.
Yeah, I think we have, it might be even built in natural environment, actually talk, but we have an item about urban heat. So I mean, it aligns with sustainability. Coming into the summer months will be a
Is that in the
timely
summer months?
conversation.
Only
Yeah.
idea. Especially in July.
Harmony between built and natural environment. Implement strategies to reduce the urban heat island effect.
You know,
It's in there.
there are places like Singapore, Hong Kong. They have done a phenomenal job of reducing the heat.
And you sent me that article too, with the Dallas, the heat mapping that they did and stuff, so
Yeah,
that's another one that's something right in our backyard, so.
Who sent me that one? I said Candy sent it.
sure. Absolutely. I'll send it to you. Did I send to you?
But Just whenever you,
We'll send it to the whole
Yeah, make sure it's BCC.
Huh?
BCC.
BCC. Oh, I know. I couldn't believe Mike.
the next agenda item, receive update from committee members on activities attended.
There was a seminar in Verizon about the Verizon EV, basically all their vehicles. Their goal is to be carbon neutral. So that was kind of pushed upon us to take a training on. So I took that training. It was like a 60-minute training. That's what I attended.
I'm planning on going to the Parks and Rec meeting a week from tomorrow. To talk about Creek Ridge and bring up the rewilding of it. Also, I think I saw the library meeting is tomorrow. Is that what it said on the schedule? Second Thursday?
Yes, I believe it is. I can confirm.
Cause I'm gonna go there just for a bit, just cause I just wanted to tell them they're doing a great job with some of their kids programs. So, is there anything else sustainability wise that anyone want to bring up to the library people?
I would second that they're doing a great job. So, not just for the kids, not just for the kids.
They did have a couple of, upcycle or, but like making art out of recycled things. It'd be nice, but they were like for kids. It'd be nice to have some of that for like adults. The classes. I
Like an
feel
art,
like there's a gap in services for
like an art, yeah, like an art maker thing
Yeah.
for
people
adults.
who aren't. And I know they have some limitation on like their size or whatever. It's like they have like a sewing thing every now and then, but it just fills up so fast. I just feel like if it's filling up that fast, maybe.
What was that one? Oh, the sewing?
The sewing, yeah, they
Okay.
had a couple of sewing things, but
Yeah.
but they're doing a great job.
The library board does meet tomorrow. 6. Then the parks. It's the fourth Thursday.
The fourth Thursday? I thought it was the third.
Third Thursday.
Yeah, third Thursday at 6:30, right?
Yeah, third Thursday, you're right.
Okay.
And you mentioned Creek Ridge Park and Grow Zones. When you guys leave, take a ride out there, see the
Yes.
Blue Bonnet.
Yes.
The Grow Zones they've done on Holiday Park. So that was something I know you guys talked about a lot. We passed- Yeah, yeah.
Or I mean.
Yeah.
Triangle.
So the Blue Bonnets are starting to pop up there. So
Yeah.
good work on that.
And there's some like blanket plot, there's some other wildflowers
Yeah.
that are coming up.
For the parks.
Yeah, the Grow Zone stuff.
And
that
they've
we
cut
talked
it
about.
such that you can get up to them and take pictures on this side of the Blue Bonnets and not get in the Blue Bonnet.
Put a little sign that says you're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, and the pocket currency that you guys have,
Oh,
they're
pocket.
going in. And.
Oh, on our, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard about that. I've not gone to see it. Yeah. And that by the Woodville Park.
Which reminds me, I attended the Native Plant Society of North Texas. I think that's the actual name of it. And they had the speaker they had was from Frisco. And it's called, it's like it's like little prairie in, the city or urban, some kind of play on Little House in the Prairie, but it's like, they have this whole program about pocket prairies and how they're getting them in the city and like their different wilding areas that are wild, they're promoting them. It's very interesting. I don't know. Did you wish to be in the city of Frisco? Plano.
Plano, but do you know the speaker for that?
I have it in my email.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I would like to reach out because I mean, when we started the conversation with the Grow Zone, I reached out to other cities and we had meetings with Plano and I think another city that have the Grow Zones. We had the park staff, Rob and Mark Moffett. So that was kind of, you guys bringing that up, trying to facilitate that and getting a little bit of action.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting, because they have a lot of the same, like, how do you manage the way it looks? How do you educate people about how it looks? And one of the things she says, like, a lot of people don't realize that there's actually already out of Blackland Prairie.
Mhm.
So anyway, it was very interesting. I will forward you that
Yeah,
email.
that'd be helpful.
Anything else? All right, next agenda item and last agenda item, future agenda items for meetings.
Just, since you're gonna be gone next month, what, I just need to maybe have a quick meeting with you and Alex about
Next
stuff.
Thursday.
Yeah, are you available?
Next Thursday is, well, what time though?
We can flex based on what you need to do, but typically we meet at.
Because the library meeting is 6:30, so.
Yeah, we can do it on Teams too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Thursdays should be good.
Okay.
During sometime during the day, it'd be all right. You'll, hop on like a Zoom or a Teams call.
Any other agenda items? No, we have quite a list. Yeah. All right. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Al, sorry. That, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it is 7:37.
Now don't go speeding to your next thing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Pick up on-